Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru 248. Today we're going to talk about the Doom that came to Atlantic City, a game of some measure of ill repute. This was on Kickstarter last year, and I'm not sure 100% on the details of this, but apparently the publisher kind of jumped ship, and the game was never going to be published. I believe it raised over about $100,000, which is quite a bit. But I believe that the designers and the artists and things were on the up and up, and thankfully Cryptozoic came by and said, we're going to publish this game, we're going to produce it and put it out. So this is a game that is kind of a weird game. I don't know that the game should be taken too seriously. Let's just get that out of the way, because it basically looks like a Monopoly board, and each player is one of the sort of demons or underworld creatures like Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, and different guys like that. That is trying to basically come in and destroy Atlantic City, or the world, if you will. So they're kind of hopping around, rolling on a board, sort of collecting properties like you do in Monopoly, but not really. Basically, you're opening gates at the different locations, and then you're playing all these, crazy take-that cards and randomizing a lot of stuff that's going to happen. But it's basically a roll and move. You move around the board, do some little action. You can do combat with other players and things like that. You can get different special abilities and all things like that. So let's just jump into how it works to kind of show you how a turn might work, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. So before we get into the gameplay, I just want to do a very quick sort of unboxing, just so folks can see, any Kickstarter backers can see what they're going to get. Got the rule book here, pretty well written, and kind of nicely spaced out and things like that. I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff, but it is very clear, and the game is pretty straightforward anyway, so that's nice. Here we've got the player cards here, so you can take one of these different old ones, and then you have, let's see here, we've got Nyarlathotep, right? So you're going to be tracking different things. You're going to be collecting cultists, and you get houses and things, and then you have different traits that's going to be here at the bottom. Here you can see a trait card that you're going to get. These are called Providence cards. And you start with basically one special ability, and you can track the number of gates that you're opening. As soon as you open your 6th gate, that's how you win the game. There are several other win conditions, but this is sort of like the basic win condition. And then you have you track how many doubles are rolled on a specific turn. Within that turn, if you roll 3 doubles, and you'd be rolling for a lot of things, combat and destruction and things like that, then you're going to banish and put your guy back in here and then come back on the board probably the next turn, if not the turn after. So everybody has these, got kind of nice backs on these. These are really cool as well. So here we have the board. I'll show that in a second when I talk about the game. And then we have a nice insert here. Here we have lots of cards, and these are oversized cards here. And then you can see these are kind of like the properties that you'll get, and it shows you sort of the penalty for other players when they land on them. And then these are gates here, and these are going to be where you're opening gates on these different spots. Here we've got some tome cards. This is actually for a variant, but I would actually recommend playing with this. You can get different things here and different little special abilities, and these will sometimes act as extra gates. And here you have some of the other win conditions here. These are the Doom cards. And so in addition to basically opening 6 gates, everybody's going to be randomly dealt one of these Doom cards for sort of an alternate win condition, and these are just a variety of different things. Let's just take a look at this one. I haven't actually used this one. So this one is precondition. You must have 3 gates open, and then action: initiate and lose 3 attacks. Begin with the player to your left and continue clockwise. -1 attack penalty for each gate to Kadath, and that's on the side of the board. So basically what's going to happen with these Doom ones is if you land on one of your own gates, then you can trigger this if you meet the precondition. So this one is you have 4 gates, sacrifice 8 houses, and then reduce this for each gate at Yog-Sothoth. So there's a variety of different win conditions, and these can sort of change hands. You can steal these from people, you can draw new ones and things like that. And here we've got our Chance card. That's C-H-A-N-T-S, not Chance, like Monopoly, but they're pretty much kind of the same thing. You start the game with one of these random ones. Sometimes there's events in there, and these are the currency. You have to pay either houses or cultists, things like that. I'll talk about that. Here are the gate cards. Each player has 5 for the various old ones that they'll use, and then you're going to open these and actually mark these on the board. I'll show that. Then you've got your little wooden bits here. You got your tokens and your houses and your resorts or your hotels. I'll explain how these work. These tentacles here are going to use to track stuff on your player boards. Here are the cultists. These are a currency in the game. And you have your Providence cards. These are like your, what are they? I can't remember, the community chest. And then, like I said, you're going to start with one. Let's see. So this one here, you know, this is one that will go on one of the, as the starting card there. And you're going to get these, and you can add these to your own player board, or even the player board of somebody else, because some of these are actually can be negative here. So you might have one like minus attack or something like that. So you got your dice here, and then we have a nice little insert for each of the old ones. So we'll just take a quick little look at each of these. These are awesome. These are amazing. You know, if I didn't have two minds about it, I'd probably spend some time painting these. I don't know that I will. I don't know who these all are off the top of my head. But you can see this guy here. Nice, very nice detail. Very big. These look really cool moving around the board here. Then you've got this guy here. I mean, just insane. Let's try to get in really close on the detail there. You know, nice little tentacled types of things there. I don't know what this thing is. It's just like, I mean, what is that? That's just a bubbling mass. That's awesome though. I mean, it's very Cthulhu-esque, very Lovecraftian models there. And I could see people wanting to use these like in, you know, Eldritch Horror or something, even. Or Arkham Horror. So here's Cthulhu. Pretty nice. He's on his little perch there. You can see nice details, little eyeball, all that good stuff. Wings and everything. So that's cool. And then I'll show you a couple more here, so you can fast forward if you're getting bored of this. But just, you know, wanted to highlight this is exquisite detail. And I should say, I do like all of the components in the game. That's one place where it really excels. I mean, even the board and stuff and the different cards. It has it's sort of a high contrast look in some ways, but I do really like it. He's got his little, whatever, magic ball there or something. Two more. So this one, very nice. So, and then finally the last one here is really cool. I mean, I could see somebody just picking this up just for the miniatures. Really cool stuff. All right, so let me set everything up there. I'll go over a quick turn, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've got the game here sort of set up for 3 players. So the 3 things that you're going to do at setup. One is you're going to put houses on all of these different property spaces. Now the rules give you a few ways to do this. I have my recommendation. What I would actually do is I would definitely play with 2 houses on each spot, and then play with the resorts here on every 3rd spot in every area here. So you can see this is sort of like your purple area of Nakai, and then you have your sort of reddish area here of Shagai. So these are sort of your property blocks, similar to Monopoly. The basic rules is basically 2 houses for each spot, and you don't use these hotel resorts. Now my actual recommendation, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in the review, would be 3 houses on these spots, and then you also use the resorts. But just know that there's a couple of different ways you can set up. You can set up 1 house per spot if you want a really fast game. So there's basically 3 phases to a turn. First thing you're going to do is you're going to roll 2 of these D6s here, and you can see you've got the little screaming lady there for 1s. You roll those, and then you're going to move that number of spaces. Now you can get other cards here and different abilities that make you move counterclockwise and all kinds of different stuff, but for the most part you're going to take and you're going to move these, and then you're going to land on different spots here. Now the most basic thing you're trying to do is land on one of these spots with hotels or houses here, and then you're going to roll for destruction. Just to destroy the house, you need to roll a 7 or higher, and you have different abilities with the Providence cards and the chance cards to, you know, affect your roll. When you do that, you're going to take one of the houses here, and then you go ahead and put it on your player board here. Now you can see we've got Cthulhu's board set up here. We have these little tentacles here. We're tracking the number of doubles we roll on a turn. So when you roll 3 doubles on a turn, and that can be for movement or, you know, destruction or possibly combat with another player, you get to that 3rd one, you're going to have to banish your guy and pull him off the board. And then on the next turn, you're going to start back up on sort of go, if you will. Now the other way you can get banished here, there's a spot on the board that just banishes you for landing on it. And then the other way is if you run out of these cultists here, and these are sort of currency, kind of keeping you attached to the world, if you will. Now the other thing here is you're tracking the number of gates that you put out. Each player comes with 5 of these gate cards. Here's the Cthulhu one. So if I were to remove the last house on a spot here, whoever removes the last house puts a gate there. And so they now have a gate there, and they're, you know, that much closer to victory. Now there's also some other different cool movement things that happen with these gates. which I'll talk about in a minute. But back to the player board here, you can see Cthulhu has his starter ability here, so he gets +1 destruction, and destruction is when you're trying to, you know, destroy these houses and these hotels. So you get +1 to your rolls there, and whenever you draw a chance or a providence card, you may draw from the discard pile. So everybody starts with one of these, and then if you land on a providence space, then you're going to go ahead and draw from the providence deck there. And these are all kinds of cool abilities here. You're basically going to put these down on the you know, those 3 spots. So you have 3 slots for those cards, and this one gives you +3 attack. This one defense or 2 destruction. So if you're being attacked, this will add to your roll on the attack. Let's see, -2 attack. This card may be played on an opponent. So as you fill this up, you can replace stuff. So you can, you know, replace your starting card or something like that. But again, you can play these on your opponent. So if they try to attack you later, they've got -2 attack. And the other neat thing about it is once they're filled up with 3, and they may have a really good one, well, you can give them a really crappy one and then remove that, and so now they're kind of screwed. So there's a little bit of hosiery that happens with these cards here, but these are sort of different abilities. Some of these will be actual abilities. You know, you can discard different tokens here to do different things like that. Now the other type of card that you can land on are the chance spaces here. So if you look at the top of the board there, there's a chance space. So if you go down here, you draw one of these chance cards. And you start the game with one of these randomly, and these are going to be different things. You keep a hand of these like so. So you can, basically after you do a roll, then you can try to check and see if you want to play one of these. Now some of these are going to be events. You're going to do that, maybe do a roll or move you around the board, and usually you just discard that here and then draw a new one. Now there's a couple other spots similar to Monopoly. If you go over there where the free parking would be, if you land there, you can draw one of your cultists here from the middle, or you can draw, you know, one card from one of the decks. If you go down here in the corner where jail would be, you can actually draw a new Doom card and, you know, swap it out for your Doom card that you currently have. Every time you pass the Migo space, you can draw a cultist or a new card. And one other interesting thing about movement, you can see you have these gate spots on each of the 4 intersections of the board there, and this is where the, you know, the train spots would be. If you start on one of these, what the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna roll to move. So I rolled a 5 here. Now if I want, I can first, before I start moving, teleport to one of those gates first and then move the 5. Now the other thing you can do is after you start getting a few of your gates out, or even if you're on an opponent's gate, you can actually teleport to one of your gates first. Let's say I started my movement there, I roll, I see that, oh, I'm going to get a 4 and land in that spot to get a free goodie. I can actually teleport here first and then finish out my movement. And a similar thing can happen here if you're, you know, on somebody else's gate. You can start and go to any gate that matches and then move. It's kind of a neat sort of mechanism for kind of mitigating the pure luck that is the roll and move of this. So the gist of the game, you're moving around trying to open these different gates. Again, once you get the 6th gate open, you win. So the turn is basically you roll and move, and then you may or may not have combat. Now if you land in the same spot as an opponent, you have to have combat. And basically you roll off. Each player rolls 2 dice. Whoever has, you know, the higher wins. If you tie, then the attacker wins. And then after you roll the die, then you can, you know, take turns playing chance cards and different things to, you know, change your roll. If the attacker loses, that's their turn. They can't try to do any kind of destruction roll. So if we're on this spot here, then, you know, and I lost the combat, then I couldn't go on to the destruction phase to try to capture one of these houses. Now you have the option of doing combat as if you're in the same section here. And these regions are basically broken down into these colors plus the attached neutral gate. So if I landed here, then I have the option of doing combat. Now if I fail combat, again, my turn will end. So you don't always want to do combat. Now if you succeed at combat, you get to continue your turn, but you also get to steal a cultist from your opponent, and then you get to draw a chance card. So and these chance cards, like I said, these can come in and be pretty powerful. And you know, getting these Providence cards is really kind of what you should be doing early game to get up, and so you're not just relying solely on the roll of the die. So after you optionally, or sometimes they're forced to have combat, if you're in the same spot, then you do the destruction thing, and then you try to get your gates out and different things like that. Now the reason I like having the hotels here is because when you capture a hotel, not only do you get to put a gate out, but you also get to draw a random tome off of this deck here. And as I said, these have some different cool things. So they give you a special ability. So this one is, when an opponent uses a chance card on you, you actually keep the card. So that's pretty cool. And then this says it counts as a gate to laying for purposes of gate powers. So laying's here. And so if I already had a gate to laying, you can see this is what would happen here. So I have a gate toll. So if anybody landed on one of my gates here in laying, they'd have to pay a cultist there. But I also have a special ability. You may reroll your attack roll by advancing your doubles counter and making the following sacrifice. So I can reroll my attack. If I only have one gate, I got to play 3 houses. But if I have this here, then it counts as another gate. So now it pretends like I have 2 of these, so I only have to sacrifice 2 houses to reroll. If you control all gates, you may take an additional cultist from an opponent you defeat in combat, because remember, normally you take 1. So these will actually have their own ability and then sort of, you know, buff up the ability of having that gate there. And so I like that. It just adds a little bit more randomness and, you know, chaotic special abilities to the game. Now the way that you actually have to capture these is you need 2 successful rolls of 7 or higher. And again, if you get doubles during that, then it lets you get in sort of another chance. But you don't want to roll too many doubles because then you get banished. Now let's just take a look at one of these sort of alternate victory cards. So if I had this as my Doom card I drew at the end of the start of the game. So here's my precondition. I need 3 gates. And then my action is to sacrifice 6 chance cards, or I can sacrifice 4 if I've got a gate to Carcosa up there. So the way that you can do this is once you get the gates out, and so I've got 3 gates out. That's my precondition. I'm successful with that. And then I need to land on one of my gates on my turn. So so once you have the precondition on, if you roll and move and land there, then you can try to do the action. Sometimes it may be to attack another player or do a test of some sort. And this is kind of where it comes into where you can kind of get your gates bouncing around, so that, you know, if you've got them sort of spaced out, you can sort of, you know, teleport and then go into another one and kind of get multiple chances over multiple turns there. So that's pretty cool. So that's pretty much the gist of the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. I alluded to this in the gameplay part. There's a particular setup that I think I like the best, and that would be to have 3 houses on 2 of the properties that are in, you know, a particular block, and then you have the hotel in the last one. But in addition to that, there's another variant, and that's basically each of the 8 old ones that you have sort of corresponds to each of the 8 sections of properties on the board. And the game says to sort of play, you know, put a gate out initially in that starting spot there. And so the 3 houses will kind of extend the game, but having a gate out already will sort of, you know, help shrink it down. And I like having sort of the, you've got a little bit of more dynamics out of the gate. Because once you start the game, you're just kind of rolling, and then, oh, I rolled a 7 and got a house, and then you didn't. But then you kind of leave that for somebody else to come and take the second house to get the gate. So it kind of starts off a little bit slow. And, you know, you're basically just trying to collect the chance cards and get more Providence special abilities and stuff like that. And then it kind of really spirals up, it can, and then end very quickly. And that's if you're just playing with, like, you know, the 2 houses on each spot. So I like to kind of throw everything in there. You know, you have the hotels, which, you know, activate the tombs, and then you've already got a gate out, so it doesn't take too long, because it can take a while to sort of, you know, whittle down those spots that have, you know, the 3 houses and things. But I mean, you know, let's take a step back here for a second. I mean, this is basically Monopoly with a Cthulhu theme. Now, it doesn't rip off the Monopoly cards or anything, or Monopoly game or anything, but you know, it's got its own kind of special thing with the gates, and sort of there's a lot of cards that you can sort of move counterclockwise, and, you know, you can attack people. Some of the Doom things will have you attack people. You can play cards, you know, sort of take that on the other players and things. So it's more like, to me, like a relic or a talisman kind of thing, where you're kind of going, you know, it's a roll and move, and you're kind of going around the board a whole bunch, and then, you know, you're just trying to upgrade your guy and get different special abilities and bonuses and all that kind of good stuff. So it is what it is, right? To me, it's kind of fun. My son, for some reason, always asks me to play Monopoly. I've got Star Wars Monopoly still. There must be some kind of charm to that sort of roll and move around the board thing. There's got to be some kind of weird, maybe it's just sort of a sociological thing. You know, people think of board game that's roll and move, and I kind of do this and don't have to think too much. And it's more about talking smack to each other and teasing each other and things like that. I think there's some core in, you know, at least from the people I have encountered in my life, that there's something sort of charming about that whole idea. I don't know, but you know, honestly, I'd probably much rather play Relic than this, but this is not going to take as long. I played a 2-player game earlier today, and it took almost like 20 minutes. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm coming with the other thing. Now, with a 4-player game, it's not going to take 20 minutes. But, you know, because it is kind of random, you can have different things happen. So, anyway, my main point is, I think there's people that will like this. There are, you know, I don't hate it. And I don't know how often I'll break it out, but my son's going to ask me to play Monopoly. And then now I have this and say, oh no, let's play, you know, remember the game where we destroy Monopoly? You want to play this? And I would much rather play this than Monopoly, at least, you know, for the time being. Of course, this is kind of new and fresh, and I've played Monopoly a billion times. So I definitely think this has, you know, a market of people that will enjoy it and that are into Cthulhu and want to play kind of that roll and move game and kind of just sit back and, you know, have a good time. So anyway, that's Doom that came to Atlantic City. Thanks.